Welcome to Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. St. Charles, Minnesota was home to Carl Fisher, a world-renowned gladiola breeder. Today we meet Laura Kirby, who preserves his memory and is active in promoting the Gladiola Day Festival each year. St. Charles is also gateway to Whitewater State Park, a southern Minnesota gem. And finally, we visit with City Administrator Nick Overman and Park and Recreation Director Rick Schaber to learn about the development of a new dog park in town. Stay tuned for Cities on the Move. Laura Kirby's gift shop occupies one of the buildings Carl Fisher used in his gladiola breeding operation. She has a wealth of information about Carl and all the flowers he loved. Let's meet her now.
Hi, I'm Laura Kirby. I live in St. Charles, Minnesota. St. Charles is a great little community. We're nestled off of Highway 90 and Highway 14, or Interstate 90 and Highway 14. About 3,500 people. It's got lots of beauty around it. We're close to Whitewater State Park. We've got a golf course. We've got a great grocery store. We've got all kinds of different parks in the area. So it's a nice community. Great school systems. Gladiolas are really important to St. Charles in that Carl Fisher this is where he did most of his work from. He was a cultural florist that hybridized gladiolas, and he's worldwide. You pick up gladiolas on the internet, you'll find Carl Fisher. His passion was beauty, and in that became the gladiola and the hybridizing of glads. He, out of 200 some variety species of gladiolas, he created over about 100 of them. Worldwide, that is unheard of. There's about 15. There's another gentleman that has about 15. So no one will be able to do that in this lifetime. So he's world-renowned for hybridizing, and was the first green gladiola. There's every color but blue. Most plant breeders aren't quite like Carl Fisher. He was doing it for the glory of the gladiola. Noita Gardens means beautiful garden in Indian, and that came to him in a vision, and he had a lot of religious background to him. There's lots of people that used to work in the fields that remember praying before they went out into the fields because of the beauty that he gave to the earth. A gladiola is, it's sometimes called a sword flower. It's a long, thick stem, and it has probably 7 to 8 different blooms that are kind of a tunnel flower, a funnel. There's 6 different petals on it. It's a one-sided, everything comes on the one side of the leaf. It is considered a perennial, but it's temperate, so that you have to have it as you have to dig it up in the fall. In a vase, they make a great cut flower. Yeah, you do want to leave some of the leaves on it so that the moisture and the energy can go back into the chrome, so that it'll have energy for the next year when you do dig that up. But they do make a great cut flower. The shop that I have, Gatherings and Gifts in Gigi's Hava Java, used to be the warehouse. That's what Carl called it, the warehouse, and that's where all the bulbs were kept during the off-season. That's where all the shipping and receiving came in. The history of the building is more for him. He used to come into the building, open the door, and say, "Oh, I'm home," and it was just such a fun thing to have him. And then he would sit in there and visit with everybody that would come in. St. Charles is just a great little community, and part of that is the people that live there. And we've been really lucky to have lots of artisans. And Carl was an artisan in what he did. His passion was what made it great for everyone to enjoy. And you would find him many times laying in his garden on his tummy, and people would think that he had fallen down or something, but no, he was weeding in the garden. I mean, that was his passion up until he died.
Well, today we are going to talk about dog parks, and these things are popping up all around the region, and we're going to talk with some folks from St. Charles, Minnesota about their plans for a dog park. We have our special guests are Rick Schaber and Nick Overman from the city of St. Charles. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Nick, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about how a dog park ended up on the city council agenda.
Well, last summer we had a question about where residents could take their dogs and let them roam unleashed. By city ordinance, it states that every dog should be leashed when they're going around town. But it was presented to us that people would go to various areas and let their dogs run. And so that prompted the question of, well, what do we need to do in St. Charles to fulfill that need? Mm-hmm. So that's where we started the discussions with the Park and Rec Department and local organizations to see how we might be able to fill that need for the residents.
All right. And Rick, what are some of the groups that you've been working with on this project?
Primarily, the last is the St. Charles Lions Club. We have had citizen group or people from this city of St. Charles ask and inquire about dog and parks, what we can do. But the Lions Club really stepped forward and are willing to help financially as well as with some volunteer labor to get the dog park going.
Okay. And tell us, what exactly is a dog park?
Kind of like what Nick touched on, it's an area that citizens are able to take their dogs and let them run unleashed.
Okay.
It's a fenced-in area. The area we're looking at is about 300 by 80. It has a gate system where they're able to come in, unleash their dogs, and then allow them to run into the free open area.
Okay. Is there a maximum limit in terms of the number of dogs allowed in the park at any one time, or how do they get to utilize it? Is it
yeah, there actually isn't. It's up to the owner of the dog to keep an eye on their own pet that's in the facility.
Okay.
But the area is quite large, so there is other dog parks that do have fenced off areas for smaller dogs and larger dogs.
Okay.
At this point, we're just looking at one open space.
Mm-hmm. All right. And are there some different locations that you're looking at around town, or it sounds like maybe you've keyed in on a favorite?
Yeah, we've got a couple, 1A, 1B, kind of looking at, but we've been working with our Winona County Fairgrounds in regards to using part of their facility, and we also have a new park, an existing park that expanded, Brookwood Park, that we have a large grass area that we're looking at putting in.
Okay. So are there more dog owners, do you find, in the city these days? Are they having multiple dogs? How many dogs can you have if you live in the city of St. Charles? Are you permitting a certain number, or?
Currently, we don't restrict residents from
Okay.
a number of dogs. So, they can enjoy their pets like their children as much as they want. But this is one opportunity. We look in St. Charles to try and provide as many quality of life pieces for our residents. And the closest dog park we found was about 25 miles away. And for many people, their pets are like their children. So we thought, well, this is a good time to investigate what can we do for those residents and surrounding guests.
And from a policy standpoint, why do you think it's maybe a good idea to have a designated dog park as opposed to the current practice of, oh, hey, there's an empty space out there, I think I'll run my dog?
Well, for the city park situation, it's part of our law, of course, that they have to be leashed, so they can't run open in the open space. But it's a safety issue. Every community kind of has situations where they've had the potential of a dog bite situation. And this kind of releases that liability for some of those people. They actually have a designated area for them to take their dogs.
Okay. And I suppose a safety factor for the dog as well.
Oh, definitely.
Can't
Yep.
run away or into
Yep.
the street.
That's right.
All right, sounds good. So you're considering a couple of different locations. What are some of the next steps that are going to take place here, since this isn't for sure, you don't have it pinned down exactly what happens next?
We are meeting with the Fair Board actually tonight in regards to their property. Otherwise, again, the AAB situation is our Brookwood Trailer Park, and our Park Board has already given permission to build a facility there. So we'll be working with the Lions Club and continue to do some fundraising for the cost of the fencing. And there are also a situation of parking lot, trash receptacles, other things like that. But we're hoping to try to get it nailed down by the end of this summer at the latest.
Okay. And the dog park, is there going to be an extra fee for the use of that, or that's part of your licensing process for your pets?
Yeah, there will be no fee.
Okay. All right. So anybody can come up and show up. Will there be specific hours?
All of our parks are closed at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So we haven't set that, but I'm sure that'd be the same stipulation we'd have with the dog park.
Okay. And tell us a little bit, Lions are involved from a fundraising standpoint.
Yep.
Are they sharing some ideas on what they think the rules of the park ought to be? Or?
Well, a lot of the rules, of course, will be set by state statute. We work with the League of Minnesota Cities in regards to any liability issues we do have, and there's things in place stating how it has to be designed and whatnot. The Lions role, again, has been, they've got a ton of people lined up for labor, helping install the fencing. But again, the almighty dollar, especially nowadays with the budget situation,
Sure.
their fundraising is a big part of this.
What is your goal? Because you have to put up a fence, and what other expenses will you have? What kind of target are you looking for?
It kind of depends on the location. The Brookwood Trailer Park situation, Brookwood Park, excuse me, actually has a parking lot in that area right now. So the cost would be a little bit less in the Brookwood Park situation. The fairgrounds, we would have to work on some parking issues possibly there. But just the fencing alone, you're looking at about $8,500 worth of fencing cost.
Okay.
With other things, you're probably getting close to $10,000.
Okay. And have they started fundraising? Are
Yes,
you
they have.
partway
Yep.
there yet?
Yep.
Okay.
They've
And if
been-
people want to make a contribution, where do they send it?
They can contact the St. Charles Lions Club or myself at City Hall in St. Charles.
And send a donation?
Yep.
All right. Is there any action that will need to be taking place by the city council itself, or have they kind of said, yep, this is something we want to see happen, and it's simply a matter of negotiating location at this point?
I think they see the value in the project, and it's servicing, like I said, another need in the community. So as far as formal action, none that I'm aware of, but they're certainly in favor of the project and looking forward to it.
All right. For other communities in the region that may be considering a similar activity, or they've got folks in town that are talking about that, what kind of advice would you give to them? What steps would you say, hey, here's how we did it, and here's what we recommend. This is maybe a boondoggle we got into and we got around it this way, or what kind of advice would you give to other communities that are looking at the same subject?
The biggest thing that we've seen is just get the input from the community. It was amazing the number of people that have contacted me over we first kind of introduced this about 5 years ago, the concept. And the number of people in the last 5 years that have said, geez, we'd really support this, and they've showed that with their monetary and also with their labor situation. But at this point, we really haven't found any kind of roadblocks, stumbling blocks. I've got some good friends in my field that have kind of steered me in the right direction. So we went over to Rochester and took a look at their dog parks and pros and cons, and it really comes down to having an area to put it in. You really can do whatever you want with fencing if you have the proper area.
Okay.
And it's probably come to the forefront just because the economy has slowed such that people are looking for more activities to do right in their own backyard. And so this is a great opportunity for them to get out and stay local, take their grandchildren or their children and go play with their pet, but then do it in a safe fashion. And then provide a healthy alternative for their pets who may not be able to get out.
Sure. Exercise is good for
Absolutely.
them too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Maybe stop some of that barking that the neighbors don't either. That's always a
That's
good
right.
thing. In terms of maintenance of the park, pet responsibility, if you're going to give advice to potential users of this park, what would you say to the residents who want to come use this park? What kind of behavior are you expecting from them and their dogs?
First of all, just cleaning up after themselves. That's a requirement, and the signage would state that they're responsible for any leftovers. But what we've learned over with my research the last couple of years is we do have pet stations, we call them, where they're able to get plastic bags, even at our city parks.
Okay.
And so it's available, but they're finding out even that's expensive, and the local grocery stores have all kinds of leftover bags, and other communities have allowed people just to bring their bags in. They'll put a big garbage can out there that's covered.
Right.
Saves a lot of cost.
Kind of a recycle?
Yeah, recycle and reuse, yep. But just the dog waste is the biggest issue.
All right. And anything else that you would recommend, Nick, for folks other communities, other cities that are looking at any ordinances that need to be put in place, or kind of the legal work for this?
I would say just making sure you have good communication with your organizations, and making sure you're taking, everybody's on board with the steps that you're taking. Not to get the horse ahead of the cart, if you will. So, but otherwise, working with your insurance provider. Like Rick said, we work with the League of Minnesota Cities, and they're very much, pro dog parks. But there are some steps to look at, just to make sure.
Yeah. Does it increase the city's liability in terms of if you provide a special place for the dogs to be? Does that make you somehow responsible for the dog's behavior? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. All right. That's good. In terms of, let's say you find a site selection within the next 30 days, what kind of a timeline are you looking at for completion of your project?
Well, again, the almighty dollar is what's going to be the factor for that. But the one site that the city owns currently is ready to go at this point. So if that's the place and the money is available, it could be less than 30 days with the fencing company. Yeah, depending on their schedule. I actually had a conversation with one of our local guys, and he said that they would definitely be able to get it in their schedule by the end of June if we had a decision like tonight's meeting. So. If the money's there.
If the money's
there.
Yeah. All right, just got to work on that fundraising piece. All right.
And it goes back to good planning. I mean, what is going to be a good long-term fit for your residential area, or how is it going to impact, other surrounding businesses or other development around that dog park? Because you will have, barking dogs and people playing with their pets. So that's always a consideration as well.
Now you mentioned for some of your residents the closest park was 25 miles away for them to access. Will you allow folks from outside the community to come to the park, and will there be any licensing requirements for folks that maybe aren't residents of St. Charles but might want to exercise their dog in the park?
Well, I think for licensing, any community that has a licensing policy with their dogs, I mean, we're not going to be out there policing that, but that'd be something if there was a situation that we would make sure the dog's licensed. But otherwise, no, it's like any of our city parks. I mean, they're open to anyone to enjoy.
And you hope owner responsibility. I mean, to have them, updated with their annual shots and things like that, for safety for other people if they're going to take them out.
Sure.
So.
And at this point, it's primarily just a flat, open space, no obstacle courses or,
Yep, just a fenced
jungle gym
area
for the
Yep.
dogs. All right, sounds good. Well, it sounds like you've done a lot of footwork on this project, and it's kind of ready to go once you have your location selected. So thank you so much for coming over and telling us all about it. And
Yes.
there may be other communities in the region that are thinking about having a dog park, and these are the guys to call. How about a phone number for the city office?
Area code 507-932-3020.
All right. Give them a call if you have some questions. Stay tuned for more Cities on the Move. Whitewater State Park hosts more than 300,000 visitors a year. Let's find out why.
Driving through southeastern Minnesota, you can enjoy rolling hills and a pastoral setting, when suddenly the road turns down steeply and you enter a lush forest with sparkling water. You've just discovered Whitewater State Park near St. Charles. One of southern Minnesota's most popular parks, this state resource has much to offer. Assistant Park Manager Roger Heimgartner describes how this oasis was formed.
This area of the state is called the driftless region because it was not affected by the last glacial period as much as other areas were. And it's called karst geology. The limestone, sandstone that we have that is so porous and allows the formation of caverns and stuff was also eroded a lot by the runoff from the glacial period. That's what gave us these great bluffland areas that would otherwise be flat prairie like everything else.
The 3,000 acres of the park are home to a wide variety of plants and animals.
You probably see some white-tailed deer, some squirrels, birds, probably not wild turkeys, although occasionally somebody does, but those guys are pretty shy, so you've got to be a little bit more cautious in how you approach those areas. We've had people who have seen our river otters. We have places now in the park where we have different colonies of beaver that we're hoping they don't become a problem, but people have reported seeing the beaver during the daytime too, so that's kind of fun.
There's no shortage of activities for visitors to enjoy, though Heimgartner often encourages park visitors to simply sit back and enjoy the peaceful surroundings.
But our park naturalist, Dave Palmquist, I believe is one of the top naturalists in the state of Minnesota. We have a tremendous interpretive program here. We not only have programs here from making your own walking stick to learning about caves, fossils. We have a place outside the park, of course, where we can take people to collect fossils if they can find them in a road cut. A lot of programs on the native flowers and the birds. One of the things that'll be coming up a little later this summer is a program on peregrine falcons, which are now nesting again in the park 2 years in a row after being gone for 47 years. So it's pretty exciting. And young ones have hatched, just for those birders that are interested. I've got a tremendous list about mushrooming, maple syruping, programs that are put on not only by our park naturalist staff here, but also by volunteers that come in and do programs. from beginning trout fishing to making jams and jellies and harvesting or starting your own prairie flower garden. One of the things that I often tell people when they ask, what is there to do, is it's a good place to just kind of come and relax and watch the wood burn in the fire ring and the river go by and lots of wonderful birds. Our birding area right here in the trail center offers people an opportunity year-round because we have a lot of bird feeders right here. Birds are used to coming and you can observe them from inside. Wildflowers all summer long. We have a lot of different native communities here, so there's a lot of things to observe, and you kind of be inventive and do all sorts of activities.
The flood of 2007 greatly impacted the park.
The flood in August of 2007 was tremendous. In some ways it was positive, in other ways not so positive. Thankfully, we didn't have any loss of life. It was a natural occurrence. It isn't the first time we've had a big flood like that. So we see changes naturally occurring here that are part of the system, and it's exciting to see how some of those things change. In some areas, it wiped out some of the graffiti that had accumulated, so we weren't disappointed in that part. There was over $5 million worth of damage done in the park. We're back as good or better than ever before, and it's a great place to be. And you can still see some interesting signs of the things that happened with the flood.
One of the park's best features is the extensive trail system offering great views.
One of the things that's really interesting about the trails here, a lot of work has been done to make the trails here more accessible to people rather than scrambling up some of the steep slopes to the top of the bluff. There's a lot of the trails have stairways. But if you can get to some of the overlooks in the park, they provide a wonderful vista of the valley. Also associated with the park is the fire tower that's just by Elba. Did a lot of climbing, but the view from that fire tower is unbelievable.
Whether you're a day hiker or a week-long camper, Whitewater State Park is a jewel you must check out.
And now for the calendar of events. It is the beginning of fair season. The Winona County Fair will be held in St. Charles, Minnesota, July 7th through the 11th. Enjoy your favorite fair food, stroll the livestock barn, catch some good entertainment, and visit with old friends. For more information, visit winonacountyfair.com. The Rice County Fair follows on July 20th through the 25th. On July 9th and 10th, enjoy the Bicycle, Blues, and Barbecue Festival at Clear Lake City Park. Ride the trails and enjoy blues bands and barbecue food at this annual event. Friday at 6:30 p.m. there's live music. Saturday at 7 a.m. there's a fun ride, and at 1 p.m. there's a circuit bike race. On Sunday, check out the road bike race at 9 a.m. There is a registration fee for the bike rides and races, and for more information visit bicyclebluesbarbecue.com. The Shine Fest tractor ride will be Saturday, July 17th, starting at the Freeborn County Fairgrounds. The ride is open to any make or model with several speed classes. For more information, call 1-800-345-8414. If you have an event to share with our viewers, log on to ksmq.org and post it today. Next week on Cities on the Move, we check out Charles City, Iowa. This town is developing a whitewater course, hosts an impressive art collection, and more. Please join us Tuesday, July 13th at 6:30 p.m. on KSMQ for another edition of Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Good night.
Production of this program is made possible in part through a grant from the Blandon Foundation.